everyone. Welcome to the Legacy Cafe podcast with your host, Rob Lucy, author of the book, How Will You Be Remembered? The definitive guide to creating and sharing your life story. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and find yourself a seat in the Legacy Cafe. Here's Rob.
Thanks, Kathy. Hi, everyone. I'm Rob Lucy. And as you know, the old Legacy Cafe is all about legacy. Well, here's one that you can create today if you haven't done it. You know, we all have all kinds of personal details, our will, our papers, our passwords. The best thing to do is to get them into a clearly laid out form so your family doesn't have to hunt and peck for months trying to figure out where all this stuff is. Because if your details are a mess, that mess is going to become theirs with all the frustration that goes along with it. You can almost hear somebody calling from the back room, "Hey, who has the key to the safety deposit box?" Nope, get your stuff together and you'll wear a silent legacy smile from now till your end, and you'll wear that smile because it is all together and your loved ones won't be silently grumbling your name looking for it. Well, the lady who knows the how and why of all this is Nancy Juetten. She's the co-founder of the Life Goes On Roadmap, and I think she's here from Bellingham, Washington. Hello, Nancy.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Okay. Hey, I kind of painted a bad picture, but is this really a problem? Is this something that people just don't do?
You know, procrastination is a big deal for a lot of people. Is it a problem? Yeah. Only 60% of the people on the planet have a current will. That means that a whole lot of people don't. And if something random or crazy should happen and life changes in an instant, that leaves a big darn mess for a lot of people to clean up later. And I'm not even talking about a will or a trust. I'm talking about your basic, how to manage your household, how to manage your bills, how to make sure you can access the investments that you've worked so hard to maintain. I believe that it's more about life than about death. It's a great gift you give to your family to make sure that you're on the same page. So if someone needs to take the reins and drive, they can do so with as few potholes as possible.
Give me a picture for me. Who would find themselves in trouble when their spouse of 20, 30 years disappears?
Well, they say that 7 out of 10 women at one point or another will be solely responsible for managing the household, the investments, and everything that a family has accumulated over a lifetime, because women tend to live longer than their men. And so, yeah, that's a problem. And if you are someone who's been in a multi-decade marriage where you've taken a lot of pride in making sure that your other half doesn't have to manage these details, you may be waking up in this moment and realizing that you may not have been doing that partner any favors, because protecting one partner from ever having to deal with any of this means that when the rubber meets the road in life, they are certainly going to have some serious issues to contend with, and perhaps at the worst possible time. And that is really what we're trying to help people with, is when you are in smooth sailing mode, the kids are all right, the parents are all right, you don't have any major drama, trauma, or chaos in your path. Look at that as a great gift opportunity to take a few moments, a few hours every week for a few weeks to get your act together, because when the rubber meets the road, you're going to be in a crisis mode and you're not going to be present to manage that level of detail, and it's going to cost you in ways that you can't even begin to count.
So if I'm the male of that couple you just described, why the heck didn't I organize these things? What am I fearful of something? Am I denying that I've got a problem, or what would it be?
You know, marriages, relationships, they're interesting, aren't they? People set up roles and responsibilities according to whatever their values were at the time. Maybe it's his genius to manage the money because he's a financial advisor or somebody that works in commerce, and that's not her genius. So he's just taken on that role and figured, I'll just do it. That may work until life hits a bump in the road, but when life hits a bump in the road, and I mean, doesn't everybody know someone where one of them writes the checks and the other one can't find the butter in the refrigerator to save their life?
Oh dear.
Everybody knows somebody like that. And when you see the struggle that happens, you realize that maybe it's time to get on the same page. And I'll tell you something. I've had these issues I've been married for a number of decades. I love my husband. He is a financial advisor. I run a business of my own and I know how to manage money. But not long ago, he had a health incident and was in the intensive care for 36 hours. No one could have imagined that this would have been his situation. And while I'm driving him to the emergency room, I'm going through my head, do I know his social security number? Do I have his medical card? Do I know what his final wishes are? Because it looked to be a pretty dire situation. And I was really grateful that I had access to all that and I knew it. But how many women could be driving their husbands to the emergency room with the idea that he's going to come home and maybe they're not lucky enough to have that be their outcome? And if they don't know the answers to all of that, not only are they going to have a lot of administrative aggravation, they're probably going to be pulling their hair out and they're going to be shedding a lot of tears because the feelings of disempowerment that you have at the worst possible moment don't serve anyone very well.
Yeah, and like you said, life has its little twists and turns, I suppose. So you're saying get this done before there's a disaster or a divorce or an unexpected diagnosis.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And here's the thing. This is the thing we've discovered over the last couple of years. Getting your act together, some people would say they'd rather do anything than sit down for a couple of hours and do paperwork to figure out this kind of thing. But let's make it real for a moment. In today's day and age, there are many people who are married, and the stats are that 50% of all marriages are going to end in divorce. Well, we all know people that have been married more than one time, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. And what if they've had children from multiple marriages? You have a beneficiary designation crisis on your hands if you have not taken steps to update your beneficiary designations. And if you are wife number 3 and you're expecting to inherit husband's considerable wealth and he has forgotten to update his beneficiary designations to indicate that you are the one to get them, that will be a bitter pill to swallow no matter how you slice it. So in today's modern family, take an opportunity to make sure your beneficiary designations are up to date so there are no bitter surprises, because what we're talking about here is leaving a legacy, and leaving the legacy of having your act together makes sure that there's less conflict at the end of the road, which is a beautiful gift to give to those who love.
Yep. I want to talk a little bit more about the basics, what I need to get done. But you mentioned legacy. Here in the Legacy Cafe and in the book, we've said that a legacy connects you to people, enhances lives, and makes people happy knowing you're leaving something valuable behind. Do you think this falls into that definition?
I think it's a beautiful legacy that will be appreciated in the moment and will set the tone for how everyone in the family behaves going forward. If you have been a power of attorney who's been responsible for cleaning up someone's estate, and you have had to suffer through how to gain access to the safety deposit box, the investments, the online accounts, the insurance, and you have been prevented from doing so, you have a lot of resentment factor building up. You've got a lot of time you're spending away from your family, your hobbies, your gainful employment, your entrepreneurial activities. It's costing you time and money, and it's stealing your comfort and your peace of mind. It's very, very costly. If you juxtapose that to someone who cared enough about their family to organize their life in a neat, tidy way so that if the unthinkable should happen or something sudden or random should happen, that they have a roadmap to manage, that is a completely different experience that will let that person know that you cared about them enough to make sure they didn't have to struggle in the clutch moments. Because here's one more thing that we know about when there's a crisis or a challenge. Some of us are not that good in a crisis. You may find that you are one of those people and you have your executive skills go out the window as soon as someone you love is in a compromised situation. I know that is the way that I am. And that's why it gives me incredible comfort to know that at a moment's notice, I can put my hand on everything we've accomplished over our life together, and that I have the confidence that I can drive and also look after my husband if that's what is required. If I didn't feel that power, a bad situation would grow far worse, very dramatically, and that doesn't help anybody.
Let's do a few to-dos. You mentioned one to-do is update the beneficiaries in your will. Okay, I get that. What other 4 to 5 things should I think of for sure I get done when we finish this podcast?
All right, I want to make sure that on your next billing cycle with all of the utilities, the power, the water, and the gas, make sure that both names are on those utility statements, because when the power goes out or there's an issue with being able to turn on the water and the utility company says, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, I'm not authorized to speak to you because your name is not on the bill," that will be cold comfort when you need help. So please update names on all of your essential utilities. It's hard to talk about end of life, but when my husband's and our situation, we've been married for decades, and I never said to him, if the unthinkable happened and you could not be brought back to your current level of health, what is your bias? What do you want? And he said to me, and he did it with a wink and a grin, he said, "Put me out on an ice float and push me out to sea. I'll fall asleep and that will be enough." And we both had a laugh about it. And then I dug in a little bit and I said, "No, really, is that what you want?" And he said, if I have no quality of life and I'm not going to be able to communicate and function like I'm functioning now, I want palliative care. Please don't go to extraordinary measures.
I hope he does hang around for a while, because I know there's not a lot of ice flows going past Bellingham. Let me ask about the valuables, like rings or anything that has some value to it that's had a connection to.
Let me just tell you, that's a hot one. If you have been lucky enough to exchange beautiful wristwatches, earrings, jewelry, and other things that you've shared with each other on grand occasions, take pictures of what you have, assemble the receipts and appraisals for what you have, and don't put everything all in one neat, tidy jewelry box in the master bedroom closet. And I will tell you that our home has been burglarized not just once, but twice. And having the inventory of and the photos and the receipts of what valuables we had made the insurance claim so much easier to negotiate so that we could be made whole very quickly. This is about bad things happening to really nice people who have a lot more life yet to give. But if you have not yet done that, do that, because you will become a claim adjuster's dream. You will be made whole very quickly for your losses. But the alternative is, if you do not do this and you try to submit a claim and you do not have proof of what valuables you had, you will suffer a second loss because the insurance company will deny your claim. And that would be a tragedy times 2.
All this stuff that we have to collect, though, Nancy, it seems like this is going to take a heck of a long time. What's your experience in that? I mean, how long does it sit down and come up with a couple of pages of all this information?
Well, we've identified 16 road stops that you need to take in order to be prepared for anything. And you can sit down on a Saturday afternoon and get all this done in one day, like a road trip you would be taking from the unknown to confidence. Whether you do it fast or you do it slow, the most important thing is to get it done and to enjoy the journey, just like life. And so does it take time? If you have multiple homes, tons of investment accounts, boats, trains, and automobiles, jewelry, it may take you a little bit longer than the average American citizen. But wouldn't you rather get your act together so there's no conflict later?
When do you begin this process of detailing all this stuff?
If you are a young person who has parents that you're concerned about, it's a great opportunity for you to start a conversation. "Hey, Mom, if something random or crazy should happen for you, I'd really like to be able to help you out at the household, help you out with the bill paying, and help you out with any other thing that you might need. Can we have a conversation around that?" So if you're a young person, start conversations with people that you love. If you're an older person who has assets and real estate, now is the good time. It's sort of like that metaphor about, the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. And if you hadn't planted the tree 30 years ago, why don't you plant one today?
Mm-hmm.
the beauty and the shade and the wonder of that tree is going to provide comfort and beauty for decades. But why would you wait, you know? So I always say, if you're lucky enough to be in smooth sailing mode, the kids are all right, the parents are all right, you've got everything squared away, just carve out a few hours to get this done. Start some juicy conversations. And you know, this is one other thing. Sometimes people are not forthcoming about what they have or what they don't have. And I remember having this conversation with Steve and saying, these really are all of my bank accounts. I'm holding nothing back. How about you? And he said, really, these are all my bank accounts. I'm not holding anything back. But there are some families where they're not talking about everything that needs to be discussed. So have some courage to open up some of those conversations.
Yep. What got you going in this? Was that the trip to the hospital with your husband, or are you done? Are you totally organized?
A couple years ago, 3 women about my age had their lives totally undone by divorce, disability, and death by random and complete surprise. And I was just shook to the core and realized that if something crazy should happen tomorrow, I might be in the same situation. So I connected with my husband, who's a certified financial planner professional, and I said, all I want for Christmas is a roadmap to everything we've accomplished in our life so I can drive if I need to. And we put our heads together and created the Life Goes On Roadmap system for personal financial information organization. In the intervening years since we created it, our home was burglarized. There's been the trip to the emergency room. My mother has been diagnosed with dementia, and there have been so many other situations that have emerged in my own life that have been great teaching opportunities that make me very glad that my own act is together. I will tell you that the only thing certain is change, and passwords change, life circumstances change. So having those 16 road stops organized makes updating them every quarter very simple and fast. Just like you change the battery in your smoke detector every quarter to make sure the house doesn't burn down. Look at your roadmap every quarter and see that everything is still current. And if you've added assets, you've bought homes, you've added bank accounts, you've done something, take the opportunity to update and then share with the people in your family who have a need to know. Because those families that have things in chicken scratch on a folder somewhere that nobody can find them are not doing anyone any favors.
You've developed this roadmap, and you've also made a game about it. Tell me about the roadmap game.
Well, if you treat getting organized as a game to win instead of a chore to put off till later, you have a completely different mindset. It's all about an epic journey of discovery where you can find out wonderful things that you didn't even know and get closer to your family and become an I'm ready for anything road tripper who's ready for anything. And that is an empowering place to stand. We know that people are reluctant to do this for all kinds of reasons, fear, denial that any of this is going to happen to them. But if you've been on the planet for any length of time, you know that that's a fairy tale as well. Life does happen when you're making other plans. So why not look at this as an epic journey of discovery? See what you can learn, see how much more powerful you can become. Just like you're taking a road trip, change drivers from time to time to get a different perspective and grow closer as you go. You may make important discoveries about wanting to retire sooner versus later, or to take that bucket list trip sooner versus later, or to change the way you invest your money or spend your money day to day. If you don't have these conversations, you won't gain the benefit of the transformation that happens when you actually have the courage to talk about these things.
Now, this game, am I honestly going to have fun doing it with my darling wife of 32 years?
We had fun. It's all a mindset. Either you're going to look at it like a chore, or you're going to change your mindset to believe that this is something that it's a gift you give each other. It's, you know, when you play a game, there's usually a winner. But in this case, everybody wins who gets to the finish line. There are no losers. And it will start conversations that will bring you closer. And if you are in one of those families where there are secrets that are being kept, I'll tell you something, I'd rather know what the secrets are now than find out the bitter surprise later and not be able to do anything about it.
I'm a professional beggar, Nancy. What have you got that we could give our listeners?
Well, I've got a beautiful Get Your Act Together Getting Started template that I would love every one of your listeners to download right away. And it will, in a very friendly, engaging manner, get you on the path to getting your act together and starting right now.
Beautiful. Well, we will put that on the website. You just need to go to legacycafe.org/roadmap. legacycafe.org/roadmap. You can get this process started.
Yes, absolutely. And what I would say is share this Getting Started template with everyone in your family and start having conversations.
Terrific. Well, that's some great information and a great start. So for Nancy Juetten's roadmap, please go to legacycafe.org/roadmap. Nancy, I hope we have a whole bunch of people getting their act together, which one of them will be me. And I hope your husband never catches that ice flow.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's really been fun, and I so appreciate it.
Great to chat with you, Nancy Juetten. So my name is Rob Lucy. This is the Legacy Cafe. Hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you again next time.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Legacy Cafe podcast. We have lots of great conversations coming your way. And by the way, if you want us to send you reminders that a new podcast is ready for you, go to legacycafe.org to subscribe. That's legacycafe.org. Have a great day, and remember, the coffee and conversations are always hot at the Legacy Cafe.